The pressure was a constant companion, a muted thrumming against every bone. I adjusted the hydrostatic compensator in my suit, a fine-tuning of microjets that mimicked the external water's density, easing the ache in my chest. Outside, the filtered sunlight fractured into an ethereal blue, illuminating the coral forests of Sector Gamma, a deceptively beautiful and profoundly alien world. It was 2147, and humanity had been submerged for 73 years. Not through catastrophe, not through conscious design, but through a slow, agonizing convergence of ecological pressures and an unforeseen technological breakthrough. The initial impetus hadn't been utopian. It wasn't some grand vision of aquatic paradise. It began with the Deep Sea Mining Consortium, DSMC, a privately funded entity aggressively pursuing rare earth minerals on the abyssal plains. They developed a revolutionary resonant extraction technology, sonic waves calibrated to vibrate specific mineral deposits, dislodging them without traditional destructive methods. The problem wasn't the mining itself. It was the scale. DSMC's initial projects, driven by relentless market demand for lithium-ion batteries and advanced materials, triggered a cascade of localized ocean acidification events. These weren't dramatic, immediate collapses. They were subtle, insidious shifts in pH levels that decimated delicate coral ecosystems and disrupted marine food chains. The scientific community, initially dismissive, began to notice patterns. The areas closest to mining operations exhibited the most severe degradation, but the effects radiated outwards, creating a widening, dead zone across vast stretches of the Atlantic. Simultaneously, advancements in material science, specifically developments in self-healing polymers and pressure-resistant composites, made habitation beneath the waves increasingly feasible. DSMC, realizing their extraction methods were inadvertently catalyzing a mass relocation event, pivoted. They offered subsidized habitats, technological support, and access to resources. Essentially, a lifeline for scientists and engineers who were desperately trying to understand and mitigate the damage. The first permanent underwater settlements, dubbed ARCs, were constructed around existing hydrothermal vents, utilizing the geothermal energy as a primary power source. These weren't gleaming, futuristic cities. They were functional, modular structures built from reinforced concrete and the newly developed biopolymers, resembling sprawling, interconnected hives clinging to volcanic rock. Initial inhabitants were primarily marine biologists, geologists, and engineers specialists tasked with studying the altered ocean environment and developing technologies for sustainable living. The transition wasn't instantaneous, nor was it universally embraced. The surface world continued its trajectory of climate change, resource depletion, and political instability. While some saw the submersed existence as a necessary refuge, others viewed it as an exile, a slow descent into a sterile, artificial environment. A significant cultural rift emerged between surface dwellers, those who remained in increasingly crowded and unstable terrestrial cities, and the Aquarians, as the underwater communities were becoming known. The surface dwellers often accused the Aquarians of abandoning humanity to a watery grave, while the Aquarians argued they were safeguarding what remained of our planet's biodiversity. My name is Elias Vance, and I'm a chronobiologist, a relatively new field born out of necessity. My research focuses on the long-term effects of sustained hydrostatic pressure on human physiology. The initial assumptions regarding human adaptation were simplistic: increased bone density, altered cardiovascular function. However, decades of observation revealed a far more complex picture. While bone density did increase approximately 20% in Aquarian populations, it was accompanied by significant neurological changes. The constant pressure exerted a subtle but persistent influence on neural pathways, leading to decreased cognitive processing speed and an increased susceptibility to anxiety and depression. We call it pressure sclerosis, a slow, degenerative process that essentially stiffens the brain. It wasn't a disease in the traditional sense, it was a fundamental shift in how our nervous system functioned. The Aquarians exhibited heightened sensory perception, particularly in regards to vibrations and pressure changes, but this came at a cost. Our ability to process complex information, to engage in abstract thought, seemed diminished. My current project involves studying the epigenetic markers associated with pressure sclerosis. We've identified specific genetic sequences that are significantly more active in Aquarians, suggesting a biological predisposition to the neurological effects of prolonged hydrostatic pressure. Interestingly, these same sequences were present, albeit dormant, in surface dwellers, indicating a latent vulnerability. This raised a crucial question: was pressure sclerosis an inherent adaptation or a consequence of our environment? Life in Sector Gamma is regimented, dictated by the rhythms of the ocean and the limitations of our technology. Food production relies on hydroponic farms utilizing bioluminescent algae for light and nutrient recycling, a surprisingly efficient system, though lacking in variety. Social interactions are mediated through holographic projections and neural interfaces. Physical contact is rare, considered a potential vector for infection and a distraction from focused work. The DSMC remains a powerful force, albeit one operating under intense scrutiny. They control the majority of the seabed resources and maintain a tight grip on technological advancements. Their initial promise of sustainable mining has largely evaporated. They now primarily focus on salvage, recovering debris from sunken ships and submerged infrastructure. This salvage operation is critical to Aquarian survival, providing materials for construction and repairs, but it's also deeply intertwined with the ethical dilemmas at the heart of our existence. Recently, we detected an anomaly, a massive, geometrically precise structure buried beneath the seabed approximately 50 kilometers from Arc Gamma. It wasn't natural. Its composition, a complex alloy of titanium and carbon nanotubes, was unlike anything produced by DSMC or any known human industry. Initial scans indicated it was incredibly old, predating even the earliest evidence of human civilization on land. The structure emitted a faint energy signature that resonated with the resonant extraction technology used by DSMC, a chilling realization that suggested this wasn't merely an artifact. It was potentially a key component in understanding the origins of our submersion. The discovery ignited a debate within the Aquarian Council, the governing body of Sector Gamma. Some advocated for immediate investigation, believing the structure held the answers to our predicament, while others argued for caution, fearing that activating it could trigger unforeseen consequences. The surface dwellers, predictably, seized upon this news as evidence of a conspiracy, claiming the Aquarians were deliberately concealing a dangerous technology. I believe the structure represents a crucial turning point in our story. It's not simply a relic. It's a testament to a forgotten civilization that possessed a profound understanding of energy manipulation and oceanic dynamics. The fact that it resonates with DSMC's resonant extraction technology suggests a deliberate connection, a potential link between past and present. My hypothesis is this: the submersion wasn't an accident, it was orchestrated, not by humans, but by this pre-human civilization, a society we now refer to as the Echoes. We believe they were attempting to mitigate the effects of a planetary catastrophe, perhaps a runaway greenhouse effect or a catastrophic geological event. Their technology didn't just extract minerals. It subtly altered the ocean's properties, creating localized pressure zones and manipulating currents, effectively submerging landmasses and forcing humanity into a controlled environment. The structure we discovered is likely a control mechanism, a device designed to regulate these pressure zones and maintain stability. However, its activation could have triggered a cascade of events, accelerating the process of submersion or even initiating another catastrophic shift. We are currently developing a submersible drone equipped with advanced scanning and manipulation capabilities. The goal is to cautiously probe the structure, analyze its energy signature, and attempt to decipher its purpose. This operation carries immense risk. Any misstep could destabilize the surrounding environment or activate dormant defense systems. The ethical considerations are staggering. Do we have the right to tamper with a potentially ancient technology? Could our actions inadvertently unleash a force beyond our control? These questions haunt me, especially when I consider the parallels between our situation and that of the Echoes, a civilization that ultimately failed to prevent its own demise. I've been reviewing historical data recovered from the Ark archives, fragments of information gleaned from surface dweller records before the initial exodus. The DSMC's early reports are riddled with inconsistencies and omissions, suggesting a deliberate obfuscation of the truth. There were whispers of Project Leviathan, a top-secret initiative aimed at developing advanced underwater weaponry and controlling oceanic ecosystems. It seems the pursuit of resources wasn't solely driven by market demand. It was fueled by a desire for dominance, a reflection of humanity's inherent tendencies, amplified by technology and desperation. The surface dwellers are not entirely blameless. Their unchecked consumption, their disregard for ecological consequences, created the conditions that ultimately led to our submersion. However, they bear responsibility for failing to heed the warnings, for prioritizing short-term gains over long-term sustainability. As I stand here, observing the filtered sunlight dance on the coral reefs, I'm struck by a profound sense of isolation. We are a species adrift in an alien world, clinging to existence within artificial confines. Our future is uncertain, dependent on our ability to understand and adapt to this new reality. The Echo's legacy serves as a cautionary tale, a reminder that technological progress without ethical considerations can lead to catastrophic consequences. The pressure remains constant, but it's no longer just physical. It's the pressure of responsibility, the weight of history, the burden of knowing that we are living in a world shaped by choices made long ago, choices that continue to haunt us even beneath the waves. The next phase of our investigation hinges on understanding the Echo's motives, their technology, and ultimately whether they intended for us to survive, or simply to become another layer in the ocean's silent history. The drone is preparing for deployment. I can feel the anticipation building within the Ark, a mixture of hope and dread. As the drone descends into the darkness, I send one final thought towards the surface, a desperate plea for connection, for understanding. We are here, we remember, and we must learn from our mistakes. The blue light fades as the drone disappears into the abyss, carrying with it the potential to rewrite our story or to confirm our inevitable descent into oblivion. The thrumming pressure continues, a constant reminder of where we are and what we have become: humanity, submerged, searching for answers in the silent depths.